Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Phil with another Canvas code tutorial. Today's video is about grouping items using Canvas Grid. We're going to create something that looks like this on desktop and this on mobile. Alright, so let's start by making the grid rows. And first you need to know what you want it to look like on a few devices. There are a few ways to do this, so for this demonstration I want to present 3 columns on desktop devices. And when someone looks at this from a mobile device, I want it to be responsive to the screen size and change the way the content appears. And for this demonstration, I'm going to make it so one column fills the full width of the screen and pushes another column underneath it. And if that doesn't make much sense right now, you'll see what I mean when we make it. So here we go. So we're going to start with the opening container, which will set up the entire grid for us. And you want to type div class equals grid-row. And close that. Make some space and close that container. So everything else in this video is going to go inside this container. So let's make the columns. And to do that, we have to create some grid items. So I said we want 3 columns on the desktop, and when it's viewed on the mobile, it's going to switch from 3 columns to 1 column and taking up the entire row, pushing the other columns underneath. Let's make that now. So for our example, we want to type the following. Div class equals col-xs-12 space col-md-4. Then close that. And we will close this whole thing as well. So what does this all mean? Well, we've just created a grid item. And this grid row container that we made earlier will split the screen into 12 equal parts. And the more you allocate to one screen size, the more of the screen it takes up. So by using col-xs-12, we're saying that we want this column on an extra small screen to take up all 12 parts. And what this will do is when we make another one of these grid items, it will push the next one underneath. So why MD4? Because we want 3 columns on a medium screen. That's what the MD is. Anything medium screen size and above will take on this setting. How do we get to this 4? Because there are 12 equal parts and we want 3 columns. So 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So that's what goes in there. Now say you wanted to have 2 columns, well then you need to do 12 divided by 2, which is 6. So in that case, this would change to 6, and we would make another one of these, and it would take up one half and another half. Pretty simple, isn't it? So let's change this back to 4, because we want 3 columns, and we're going to copy this 2 more times. And that will give us our 3 grid items, and you'll see what this does in a second. Now you can put whatever you want in these grid items, but I'm just going to put a centered piece of text inside the first one and then copy and paste it into the next 2. So let's start that now. So open a paragraph tag, style equals text-align center. Okay, and we'll say this is row 1, column 1. And close that. Now let's copy all of this into the second and third one, and we'll have row 1, column 2, and column 3. And that's basically it. Save it, and we'll look at it on the mobile as well. And now we can see that the grid row has worked, and you've placed 3 items nicely into this responsive grid. On the desktop you have your 3 columns, and on the mobile device they are stacked, because we told the grid item to take up all 12 parts of the screen, and any other grid items will immediately go underneath, and because they also took up all 12 sections, they take up the full width of the screen as well. Now I said before you can put anything you want inside them, so let's add some images to each of these columns. And the easiest way to do that is actually to go into the rich text editor and just make a space here. So press return, return, return. And what this will do is inside these grid items, it will just make a blank space. And we can check that by going into the code and seeing that it has added another paragraph aligned to the center. And this is a blank space inside that. So back in the rich text editor, we can go to the course images, and I've already prepared these images for this demonstration. So make sure you are selected inside the new space you made, and let's put in the images. Now the rich text editor is taking on the mobile view for whatever reason that is, and you'll notice that the images are massive. That's because they are set to take up the full width of the screen like the mobile device. Of course, if you save it, you'll see that they do in fact fit into the rows quite nicely. And if we refresh on the mobile device, we do in fact have our images. But there's a slight problem, and the problem is this. If I scale the window, you see that the images start overlapping with each other. That's because we didn't set up any fixed sizes or responsive sizes for the images correctly. So let's go back into the editor and change this. Now there are two ways to do this. If you are comfortable enough with HTML, you can go straight into the editor and just go here and type in the width and height that you want. If you're not comfortable with HTML, there is a way to do this from the other editor, which will add in the HTML for you, and we will do that in this tutorial. So I'm going to go back to the rich text editor, find one of the images, click on it, and drag the image to any random size. And you'll see that it has resized the image. Let's do that with the other images, like that. So all these images are now different sizes, but that doesn't really matter because we're going to go change them now. What that did is add a fixed width and height to the HTML code. So if you're not comfortable with doing that yourself, you can just resize the image manually and Canvas will add in the width and height. So what I want to do here with this example is I'm going to delete the height for all of these. And I'm going to change whatever the number is in here, the pixel number, to 100%. Save that. And you'll see now that the images scale with the window size. They don't overlap as they did before. If we look at it on the mobile device, it will look exactly the same, but they still remain in our grid items. So remember earlier I said that we could change that MD4 to MD6. Let's do that now and see what happens. We'll keep all three of these grid items, but we're going to change each one of these from 4 to 6. And then we're just going to save it. And now do you see what happened? We told the grid row that we want these grid items to take up 6 of the 12 parts of the screen. But we had 3 columns. So what it did is it pushed the third column underneath, which also takes up 6 parts of the screen. If we had a fourth item, it would appear here, and so on, with however many items we wanted. There are many different types of screen sizes you can experiment with, and they will all influence the grid differently. You can have multiple options for each of your grid items. If you're feeling adventurous with this, follow the links in the description, which give even more options for building a grid. Alright, well that's all I've got for this time. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe.